What's going on, y'all? Forward Fabian Horror, man. Back again with a video. I'm actually doing a reaction to Nightmare Files. We're doing The Strangers, the true story behind the movie, man. And perfect timing. If y'all hadn't been on streaming platforms, streaming apps, Netflix, I believe at a point in time, but I know Hulu has currently streaming The Strangers and The Strangers Prey at Night, which is the sequel, I guess, in association with the new release of The Strangers, some type of, it's the prequel. I forgot what it's called. Some type of beginning movie, beginning story. I was lucky enough to see it about last weekend. And, man, with a lot of these gory, I don't know, killer films, when they have the first, second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, that's when they start to become trash. This one, I wasn't that amused. I'm not gonna lie. The first one, I guess to each his own, pick your own poison. Some people weren't even a fan of that one to begin with. Me, I was kind of on the fence about it. I think the second one's a bit more entertaining. This new one, not a fan. So I'm just curious, interested to see the origins of the story. If this is all facts, I don't even know. Be sure to like the video, comment down below, man, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what horror content y'all want to see, man. Let's get it.
Sunday, April 12, 1981. Sheila Sharp returned from the next-door neighbor's house to her home at Cabin 28 in the Ketty Resorts in California. What the 14-year-old discovered inside the modest four-room cabin instantly became one of the most dreadful scenes in modern American crime history. It has come to be known as the gruesome Ketty Cabin murders. This is the incident that inspired the movie, The Strangers.
Okay. The Ketty Cabin murders. The hell?
The Sharp family had just moved into Cabin 28 a year before. Sue had just divorced her husband and brought her children from Connecticut to Ketty in Northern California. The six of them, 36-year-old Sue, 15-year-old son John, 14-year-old daughter Sheila, 12-year-old daughter Tina, and 10-year-old Rick and 5-year-old Greg,
Dang!
were friendly with their nearby neighbors at the Ketty Resort. The night before the murders, Sheila had slept over at a friend's house down the street. John and his 17-year-old friend Dana had hitchhiked to a nearby town of Quincy for a party and returned sometime later that evening. Tina had briefly joined her sister at the neighbors before returning home to her mother, two younger brothers, and one of the neighbor boys, Justin Smart, when Sheila returned home early the next morning to find her mother, brother, and his friend bloodied on the living room floor. She bolted back to her neighbor's house. Her friend's dad retrieved the three.
Sound like they had a whole squad, a whole squadron. I'm not sure how deep that family was, but it sounds like there's 5, 6 kids. So, from what I'm understanding, I don't know, the narration and the storytelling is moving fairly quickly, but the older siblings were out. 2 of the older siblings were out. 3 even possibly of the older siblings were out. 2 sisters seemed to spend the night at a friend's house. The older brother went on a date, so to speak. The daughters returned home to find the family bludgeoned to death. Am I tracking or no?
Unharmed boys through their bedroom window so they would not have to see his dad bloodied on the living room floor. She bolted back to her neighbor's house. Her friend's dad retrieved the 3 unharmed boys through their bedroom window so they would not have to see the scene. The murders had been notably violent. Investigators were called about an hour after Sheila had discovered her slain family. Deputy Hank Clement was the first to arrive on the scene, and he reported blood everywhere. On the walls, the bottom of the victim's shoes, Sue's bare feet, and the bedding in Tina's room, the furniture, the ceiling, the doors, and on the back steps. The prevalence of the blood suggested to investigators that the victims had been moved and rearranged from the positions in which they were murdered. Young John was closest to the front door, face up, his hands blood covered and bound with medical tape. His throat was cut. His friend Dana was on the floor beside him, on his stomach. His head was badly damaged as though bashed in with a blunt object, and he laid partially on a pillow. He had been manually strangled. His ankles were tied with electrical wire. Sheila's mother had been covered partially with a blanket, though that had done little to hide her gruesome injuries. On her side, the mother of 5 was naked from the waist down, tightly gagged with a bandana, and her own underwear secured with medical tape. She had injuries consistent with the struggle and an imprint of the butt of an .880 pellet gun on the side of her head. Like her son, her throat was cut. All victims had suffered blunt force trauma by hammer. They also all sustained multiple...
Savage way of killing, man. Very gruesome way of killing. And if the era is correct, this is like the 70s. Maybe late 70s. I don't know. Yeah. I think in the first one it's like 70s or something like that. I say that to say I think that's when Charles Manson was prominent. And they mentioned that this is in Northern California. And I don't know. I think California was very weird in the very hippie 70s era. You know, they were very open-minded. I was going to say left-minded or maybe just liberal-minded would be the best way. It was just a very, you know, they had a lot of them cults. Charles Manson's popularity of that story, you know, that happened in California as well, L.A., I believe. People just being devil worshippers and just weird, experimentative, like, I think some of them was just going through phases. But then you had other folks enacting terrible crimes, killing people, you know what I mean? So I think Northern California always has had a certain stigma of being weird.
Stab wounds. A bent steak knife was on the floor. A butcher's knife and a claw hammer, both also bloodied, were side by side on a small wooden table near the entry into the kitchen. It would take the police hours to realize that a 4th victim, Tina, was missing.
There is
Where'd she go, though? Nobody know, though. Like the video, man. Comment down below. Let's go. What else is new? Somebody fucked up.
When it was eventually discovered that Tina Sharp was missing, the FBI arrived on the scene. The sheriff at the time of the murders, Doug Thomas, and his deputy, Lieutenant Don Stoy, were not initially able to discern an apparent motive. The murders at Ketty Cabin 28 appeared to be random acts of cruelty. The strangest thing is that there is no apparent motive. Any case without an apparent motive is the toughest to solve. Further, the home did not indicate forced entry, though detectives did recover an unidentified fingerprint from a handrail on the back stairs. The cabin's telephone had been left off the hook, and all of the lights had been shut off as well.
That's interesting, man. That's interesting, though. That's interesting because relative to the story or the films, they ask, I want to say in both movies, because I remember 2 different answers or responses to this question. They ask, you know, why are you doing this? And the second one, I watched it probably 2 weeks ago, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. She's like, why not? Or something. You know, she's got a generic answer like, and then the other person, I think in the other response, it may have been the first one, and it's just like, because you're home. You were home. Like, why are you doing this? It's just like, you were home. You know what I'm saying? The other one's like, why are you doing this? It's like, well, why not? You know what I'm saying? It's so stupid. It's like it's normal. She get blown away too, though. So there's no motive. They just like to do it for fun. They just kill, and they just don't know why they do it.
The drapes closed.
It don't make sense.
More confounding is that 3 youngest boys were untouched and allegedly unaware of the events, even though a woman and her boyfriend in the cabin next door awoke around 1:30 a.m. to what they described were muffled screams. Unable to discern where they were coming from, they returned to bed. However, though, 3 boys initially claimed to have slept through the massacre. Ricky and Greg's friend Justin Smart did later say that he saw Sue with 2 men in the house that night. One reportedly had a mustache and long hair, and the other one was clean shaven and short hair, but both in glasses. One of the men had a hammer. Justin reported that John and Dana entered the home and argued with the men, which resulted in a violent fight. Tina was then allegedly taken out of the cabin's back door by one of the men. Allegedly, A lot of potential evidence was collected at the scene, but because this was pre-DNA testing, very little helpful information was found at this time.
Cold case,
Sheriff
crack it open
Thomas
later.
called the
It's that
Sacramento
simple.
Department of Justice, which then sent 2 special agents from their organized crime unit, not homicide, which struck many as odd. Immediately, the 2 lead suspects were Justin Smart's father and the Sharps' neighbors, Martin Smart, and his house guest, ex-convict John Bowe, who was known to have connections to organized crime in the area. Both men had been seen in the suits and ties behaving oddly in the bar that night before. Martin Smart later told the police that he had a hammer that matched the one discovered, and also that his hammer had gone missing shortly before the murders. Later that year, a knife was recovered in a trash can outside the Keddy General Store. Authorities also believe this item is to be linked to the crimes.
If you a suspect, though, I think they mentioned dude was a suspect. Why would you tell the police or law enforcement that a hammer that you have that's relative to the hammer found at the crime scene went missing? I mean, it's one thing if you're just a bystander, you catch wind of it on the news, you want to come forth to be able to help the case. You know what I mean? The investigation. But if you're an actual suspect, that's very sketchy. Maybe I misheard, but if you're a prime suspect or one of the suspects and you come forth saying, hey, the hammer that I own went missing, you look like an idiot. I don't know. Maybe I heard that wrong, but that's what it sounded like he said to me.
Authorities also believe this item is to be linked to the crimes. It will be another 3 years after the Keddy murders that Tina was found. A man discovered a human skull in the adjoining Butte County, about 30 minutes from Keddy in Plumas County.
Damn.
Near the remains, detectives also found a child's blanket, a blue nylon jacket, a pair of jeans with a missing back pocket, and an empty surgical tape dispenser. With that, the remains of Tina Sharp had been found, which made the crimes committed on April 11th or 12th, 1981, a quadruple homicide. Meanwhile, Sheriff Thomas had resigned from the investigation 3 months in, and he took a job instead at the Sacramento DOJ. His handling of the case in retrospect would be considered disastrous at best and corrupt at worst. The Sharps' home was demolished in 2004.
When you write,
I don't know. I do all that and I say all that because there's so many balls fumbled. You know what I'm saying? Pause. People just dropping the ball in terms of just not doing proper cleanup. You know, gathering evidence, asking the right questions, interviewing the right people. Countless scenarios, countless cases. Nobody did due diligence. Could have caught a killer. It's clockwork out here, dog. It's nothing.
Remarkably, the tape of the anonymous tip regarding Tina was found sealed in case files, untouched by Plumas County Sheriff's Department until 2013, when the case was reopened with new investigators, Plumas Sheriff Greg Hogwood and Special Investigator Mike Gamberg. In 2016, Gamberg located a hammer believed to be one of the murder weapons in a dried-up pond in Keddy. Further, it came to light that Marilyn Smart, Marty's wife and mother of Justin, had left her husband.
I don't know why pictures like this always look creepy, man. Movies, just if you're holding a sketch, it doesn't matter. Any picture with where they got the glasses just faded out like this, bro, it's just weird. It's got a weirdness, a creepy eeriness to it, man. It's like, dang, why can't we see their pupils?
On the day of the murder discovery.
Why can't we see their
Afterward,
eyeballs?
she provided Plumas County's Sheriff Department with a handwritten letter sent to her and signed by her estranged husband. It read, "I've paid the price of your love, and now that I've bought it with 4 people's lives, you tell me we are through? Great. What else do you want?"
Damn.
This letter was not treated as a confession, nor was it followed up on at the time. Even though Marilyn admitted in the 2008 documentary that she thought her husband and his friend Bo were responsible, Sheriff Doug Thomas contradicted this and stated that Martin had successfully passed the polygraph test. It was later confirmed that Martin was close with the sheriff. In 2016,
Corruption.
Gamberg met with a counselor at the Reno Veterans Administration. The anonymous counselor told him that in May 1981, Martin Smart had confessed to killing Sue and Tina Sharp. I killed the woman and her daughter, and I didn't have anything to do with the boys. He reportedly told the counselor. When the DOJ was alerted to this confession in 1981, they dismissed it as hearsay. So who knows what happened to those boys? This is the incident that inspired the movie, The Strangers.
Bro, the justice system was trash back then. We're gonna dismiss it. Everything was getting thrown out of court, bro.
First Keddie Resort resembles a ghost town, and a tragic event has been transformed into ugly folklore. Disturbing myths passed along in whispers of floating objects in number 28. Even a fable of the word no appearing scratched on the walls.
And certainly if any place was haunted, that one should be, considering what went on there.
We were turned away by the owner, who declined to be interviewed. Because of its bloody past, there are plans to demolish cabin number 28. The current owner wants to build a park there, to begin restoring Keddie Resort to its former glory, to lay the past and ghost stories finally to rest. Investigators won't rest until the killers are found. In the sheriff's department, there's a timeline of the crime that covers 2 walls.
I do have hope that it will be solved. I do.
The identity of the killers might bring a little more peace to this part of the Sierra. For 20 years later, residents still make it a point to avoid even driving past cabin number 28. In Plumas County, I'm Manuel Ramos.
The Sheriff's Department hopes new DNA tests will reveal the killers' identities. They have sent evidence samples to the Department of Justice for testing and are waiting for the results.
Nigga, that thing, that excerpt came out in like the 90s, if not the early 2000s. So y'all telling me to this day, y'all still have not found or matched the DNA. They dropped the ball. Big fumble on this one, bro. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody comment down below. Please tell me they've matched the DNA in this case. Whoever got it's dead or behind bars at this point in time. Because if that's the thing, that's the case, they still to this day have not found the culprit. Y'all are trash. Y'all garbage. Y'all fumbled the ball. Y'all fumbled plenty of times throughout. You had plenty of opportunities to nail it. Put the nail in the coffin. Drop the ball. Because interesting enough, in the first one they get away. In the second one, they have a little bit more fun with them. Yeah, I mean, that's probably obviously not true to the real story. They just kind of, switched up the timeline or switched up the sequence of events in the second one to not match the actual truth, just for audience's entertainment, possibly. But if you're telling me they never found these guys to this day, that's sad, man. So let me know y'all's thoughts on this one in the comment section, man. The comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, man. Let me know what y'all want to see. Peace, love, prosperity. God bless. We out.